Hello and welcome back to iPropertyRadio with myself, Carol Tallon. You can contact us on social media at iPropertyRadio or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. In the Proptech Hot Seat today is Sebastian Schuon, who is the co-founder and CEO of Alasco, and joining him is Sarah Geiger, whose role is as Head of International. Sebastian and Sarah, you're both very welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
So I am excited to hear about Alasco, because obviously you're operating in the ESG space, which is hugely topical at the moment. So you might just give us a little bit of background about the company and how it was formed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a company out of Munich, operating by now across Europe. Roughly 130 people here. We started 4 or 5 years ago. With a friend that was fed up with having to do his invoice approvals for construction projects on paper. And we were like, that doesn't have to be. It's our second company. We have been in the e-commerce space, sold that over there. And really our passion is that leveraging the power of digital. I think it applies to any industry. It does on universal good, mostly. And so this is how we started to get into the space, from invoice approval into the management of construction finance. And recently into the also how do we manage the challenge of implementing ESG measures, because we think of us as the person that helps someone who owns assets to do their processes and their work more digital. And one of the things people are challenged with right now is we need to control costs, we need to know where the money is, and we're seeing this huge demand for more ESG compliant buildings and knowing where am I, or if I have a portfolio, where should I invest? What is the actually I can do? What's efficient? So this is where we help people, and really part of our vision is that we are able to connect cost and finances with sustainability, because we believe you need to do balanced decisions in the future, or actually today, because this makes for the very best decisions. You need to optimize for both criteria, and this is not an easy job, and this is where we help, and we think technology can help.
I agree, technology can help. You know, and sometimes just before we started recording, you know, I talked to you about sometimes that there's a tendency for us to move ahead, forgetting that not everybody in the industry has come along on the journey. So let's take us back a step. You know, why is digitalization so fundamental to the future of real estate?
Yeah, I think it all comes back. When we started, there was this study by McKinsey that said, how is the productivity per industry? And everyone knows that in our industry, the construction real estate has sort of a flat line, everyone's taken off. And part of that is because other industries apply standardization, and it helped them to learn faster, to leverage certain things. And we and the real estate do many things still individual. Yes, a building should be individual, but does the process have to be individual? And this is where I really see the power of digital. If it's in digital, you're being enforced in doing it in standardized processes. And if it's standardized, we can automate. And this is then the second effect of digital. So it has so many positive sides. And I think we're just getting started to see them all in the real estate industry.
Who are your typical clients? You know, who are you selling to right now?
So we have different customers, more than 250 in Germany, for example, big property developers such as Heinz, who also operate globally. And then, as Sebastian already mentioned, we also have quite some customers already internationally, which of course for us means outside of Germany, right? So quite some customers in the UK, but also France, Italy, Spain, basically all across Europe.
And what we're seeing in terms of your digital, we're more with the early adopters. I think that's the call for all of us. And what you mentioned, we are in this space where people are like, oh, there's an opportunity in it, but we need to get the majority of the industry also onto digital tools.
You know, but before we started recording, you said to me very simply, change is everyone's responsibility. And I think that that's something that it's so simple that maybe it doesn't get said often enough, but you're absolutely right. It is everybody's responsibility, but the reality is these are unprecedentedly difficult times for the construction industry. And I say that having been in the industry a decade ago when the world was in chaos. But the reality on the ground is that there's so many competing priorities, that climate change is absolutely has been moved to the top, but there are so many competing I suppose issues that are challenging for this sector. How do you position that, or how do your clients reconcile that, and where do they know where to put the resources?
So I think part of how we like to answer it is, but that we help our customers to show where their actually money goes, and that they can verify, is it the way we wanted it? But coming to your point also, this is our joint responsibility. I think we all in the ecosystem should think about what's a solution or a set of solutions that can help the customer, basically, right? I mean, these days we're saying we're really good at that part, but for that other part, we can recommend you ABC, and this is how we could work together, so that we think as a PropTech universe, not in we're alone in selling our product, but we have to do it together. And there's people good at that and people good at that, and we happen to be good at financial management and ESG, but we're maybe not good at, I don't know, planning permit software or whatever it needed. And so that we stop thinking, and I think it comes to the multiple priorities. Our customers have a lot of priorities, and we should have also a synchronized answer, not compete with each other, but try to do the big picture and change it. The industry is large enough that we all win. Yeah,
look, I love that. And part of me thinks that that's your experience as a second-time founder coming out, because actually first-time founders aren't always that good at collaboration. They're not that good at understanding the need for integrations. And usually it comes from being so focused on their own the issue that they're fixing. And obviously the issue they're fixing is one they've chosen to fix, so they believe it is the biggest and most important and most pressing challenge or problem, but it might not necessarily be. And in fact, one of the overlooked areas that I think is only being addressed in PropTech in the last 2 to 3 years is about the need to integrate, the need, because the reality is no one PropTech provider, no one technology innovator is going to own the ecosystem, that actually all innovators have to learn to play well. And it's the people that play well together that will actually get market momentum. But how are you finding when you go into the marketplace looking for good innovators that you can actually integrate with? Like, how receptive are the service providers that are out there right now?
So for us, I think there's different ways how you can integrate. I mean, a lot of people think of integrate, we need to have an API connection, we need to have this connected. I think that can be a later step. I think the first thing is stuff needs to work together from a process perspective. And it doesn't have to be always a integration which is expensive to build and to maintain. Let's just figure out how we work together, that we maybe just synchronize on the data points we're having. And this can be done. And I think what we try to teach our customers, how we select internally at Alasco software. We also don't have one software that solves all our problems, but there's HubSpot, there's a marketing tool, there's charge before payment. Your favorite startup has 20 different tool vendors. And the idea is, how do we make them play together? And at some point, there's a deep integration necessary. In other cases, we just need to make sure it's synced, it works, there's a clear handoff. And so this is how we try to teach our customers, from how we know it's best to use SaaS software. And I guess as a SaaS software company, you are at the forefront and understanding hopefully how it works.
Yeah, we're actually just right before this meeting, I had a workshop with customers, and this is really part of our kind of consultative approach, where we sit together with our customers, map the whole processes out, and really try to figure out what's the best way to integrate the processes, not only in terms of technical integration, but really in how do people work together, what feeds into another step, who's kind of more operational, process-driven topic.
I think learning from the industry is such an important step, and it's one that most startups, if they're receiving any sort of VC support, they will be guided to do this. And I think after a number of years, they almost forget to go back to the marketplace and continue asking those questions and continue listening. And yet that's where the seeds of the next iteration of your service is going to come from. So that's really interesting that you're doing that. And obviously we've just come through a period of huge change in terms of the pandemic and pandemic response. So what kind of insights are you getting when you talk to customers?
So I think what, for example, for us, how we actually got to what our product offering today is by listening, or being there. So, I mean, we started with invoice approval and it got to financial controlling because people said, nice that I can control that invoice, but I want to know what's important. Our integration and our foray into sustainability was driven by customers saying, yes, this is what concerns me most right now. And how great would it be if it's combined? And so this is, I think, what it's good to develop a company and be laser focused on who we are building with for. In our case, people that own assets or build assets, and then look what's on their agenda. And I think what right now is an interesting but complicated phase, because there is, what I can at least say from I've lived with, unprecedented amount of uncertainty. People just don't know what's happening. It could go either way easily. And so we feel people right now just want to pause on certain things and wait it out for another few, I don't know, weeks, months. So this is the strongest concern. On the one hand, we're here, and the other one is we need to now manage what we have. So we have a lot of these projects going on, and we need to make sure they end where they were planned and not we're running over cost. And the other thing, obviously, how do we, in the project we're running right now, how do we meet in the future sustainability standards where we are not 100% sure what the criteria will even be, because it's so fast, it's so changing. A few years ago, it was, we didn't have the EU Green Deal, and now it's there. And, and
well,
it's building.
Let's drill down into some of those uncertainties, because across your 250 plus client base, you're working across a number of geographic locations. Are there commonalities there between the uncertainties? Because I know what uncertainties developers and contractors in the Irish and UK marketplace are facing. Taking a broader look, what uncertainties are playing out for your clients?
Well, I think what we really see is that most of the uncertainties really across Europe, probably across the globe, are more or less the same. Of course, there are always different nuances in the different countries, but the big picture really stays the same in Europe. And what we can really help them with our tool is to kind of decrease the uncertainty by really enabling them with real-time data and creating more transparency and data they can rely on, so that at least those things that can be controlled, they have proper control about it.
Very good. And just in terms of those headline uncertainties, is there an order to the priority? So, for example, we know that sustainability has really come to the fore. While the conversation has been happening for a decade, the priorities really changed when capital started to become a driver. So what we've seen, certainly in the Irish marketplace, and I don't know what it's like in the German marketplace, but certainly regulation wasn't the driver, capital was. For sustainability. So I'd be interested to hear your perspective. Like, what are the drivers that you're finding from your clients?
So I think around sustainability, it's a couple things. It's capital coming with regulation. I think that's what we're seeing, right? I mean, this is what the governments understood. To make that change, they needed to regulate financial institutions, that they have to disclose certain things. And so this is under ESG, on the sustainability front. This is the big topic. This year, it's the first time that capital market participants in Europe have to report. And so everyone is scrambling. How do we do that? It really depends on the type of the customer. Some of them, for them, it's important which assets do actually have, and to organize this in their company, that there's a structured process. Other ones are much more ahead, and they want to tweak, how do we best allocate capital? So these are things we support them, but it's a wide range that we're happening. And what we overall see with challenges, the larger the companies is, the more resilient they seem to be. There has been a lot of development with more speculative development. Often smaller companies, they are struggling more than the bigger projects. And for the bigger project, it's about, let's complete what we did. They're looking at much larger time horizons than other developments. And but really it's the same here in Germany, across Europe, what we're seeing. The financing, the capital, the access to capital, I mean, everyone sees that capital costs are rising, right? That's the prominent thing for everyone. And now you're looking, what's the easiest way to get this down? And this is where really having sustainable, that you get premiums or better rates if you're doing sustainable development. So this is one of the solutions people employ to deal with the increased interest rate.
Over the last 5 years, 4 to 5 years that you've been in operation, are you finding the sales pitch essentially has changed? So why, not even around your offering evolving, but why people are coming to you, what's important to them? Is it the same reason they're coming to you today as they were 4 years ago?
I guess I have to take this because I think people get more experienced and knowledgeable about software. The core reasons being the same: we have to manage a lot of people in our company. There's a lot of external parties involved. That doesn't work. We need a solution. So I think this stays all the same. But I think people are getting better to understand the value of software, and that you just don't buy software, but it's a change management. And this is much appreciated, because this is how we can really help our customers to create a lot of the value, is that you just don't buy the software from the shelf and now you have it and everything is good. You need to do the changes, you need to implement it, you need to have people working in it. And I think that people are seeing more the value of software. That's the difference I'm seeing.
There's a huge piece of work, or a huge body of work there around establishing best practices, and benchmarking has been done perhaps better in the construction industry than, say, in the real estate and real estate management side of it. So does Alasco have a role to play here? Like, can you actually work with companies and not just to meet benchmarks, but actually to help to set them, to kind of take a leadership position here?
I can do. So really what's interesting is, why didn't we have benchmarks before? And there's two basically reasons I've always seen. One is accessibility data. Previously, a lot of data was in some Excel sheet somewhere, so no one could gather it to actually create benchmarks. The second thing is the data, can you actually compare it? Because if you have a different definition of what, I don't know, tenant improvement for that place, if it needs to be the same definition as a benchmark, doesn't make sense. And so this is where we're driving it. This is also when I talked previously about standardization. This is the power. If we get this in the same format, easily accessible, we can start building benchmarks. And right now we offer this within our customer base, so customers can benchmark across their projects. And we're looking to bring this in a way that's helpful for the community and doesn't expose the individual. That we get to those benchmarks, but we also need to respect the privacy or the secrecy or, the individual. So this is something we're working on. And I think there's a huge opportunity that we all learn what's good, and then we can all look up to what's good and manage to work out.
The stage of digital transformation across construction and real estate, we've seen it from other sectors like manufacturing. We're at the stage that the early adopters, they're far ahead, but actually the gap between those who are embracing technology and doing it well and for all the right reasons, and those who aren't, that gap is becoming so wide. Are we in danger of, whether it's through regulatory challenges or otherwise, are we in danger that people or companies who aren't really moving ahead on their digital transformation journey, is there a danger that they'll be left behind and they won't be in a position to do that?
I wish it wasn't, but I think it's so. I mean, the last few years, you couldn't really go wrong in real estate or in development. And I think it will be harder. It will be more competitive going forward. And you need to think about, what's my edge? How am I better? And really, I think digital is one of the, if not the solution to that, because you want to better decisions. You want to know it's maybe based on data. It's how fast am I in a decision? If you get a proposal on your desk today, and if you are within minutes, be able to tell, hop or top, you could have the deal. And if it takes you, because you have also, different ways of getting there, take 2 weeks, it's gone. So I think there is this real danger happening. And I'm really happy for big logos being public about that they are digital, because this helps the mass to move. But Sarah.
Yeah, maybe one thing here to add is also that, like, we see it everywhere in all the different countries, right? That it's really a shortage of talents. And when you think about somebody who's coming freshly from uni, does they rather want to work for a company with a digital solution or paper and pen-based? So I think really looking into the future, it's also very important for the companies to become more digital and really offer those cool digital solutions for the new joiners, for their talents they're looking for.
And it's not only getting talent, it's also a safeguard for companies that if talent moves much more than it used to be. And if you're working in a digital tool, some of the knowledge is retained in the tool and not only in the person. So people switch. I mean, we noticed from our customers how thankful for Alasco you don't need training, you can start right away. And they're so thankful that people can, continue the work, because the construction side needs to be running. And we even have customers that sold their project alongside their Alasco account. So there's a continuity in the whole thing. And so I think that's another reason why digital tooling is really helpful in this new environment.
Yeah, I think it's become particularly challenging actually in the current skills shortage and labour shortage that we have across different sectors, that to become the employer brand of choice, there's huge competition for that. But one of the things I realised over the past decade or more is that people outside of the industry don't understand just how competitive it is within how competitive developers are, how competitive construction contractors are. The people in this industry want to be perceived as delivering the best places, the best buildings, the best tenant experience, the best public realm. There's a very strong level of competition here that sometimes isn't known outside of the industry. And to me, that's a really powerful driver of change. They want to be first in the technology. There is that fear of missing out. They do want to lead the charge. Has that been an advantage to you and the team in Alasco when you're going out into the marketplace?
Yeah. For sure. Like, we actually had customers coming to us saying, "Hey, we've heard that our competitor is using you. Can we see the solution?"
And I think we can use this to our advantage to help digitizing. This FOMO can be, this fear of missing out can be the driver that people take the risk basically, or take the jump and feel out, is this also a solution for us? This is why we also work with customers to produce customer success stories, so that important logos where they look up to, or they tell their story, and then potentially they see, oh, maybe that's something we should be trying out to.
Very good. One thing I've seen quite a lot in the Irish and UK marketplace is people love to buy in solutions. Now, as somebody who supports kind of homegrown talent and startups, that can be frustrating. But actually, we've seen this. The bigger developers, they like to essentially bring innovation into Ireland or into the UK that isn't there already. So are you guys operating in the Irish and UK market at this stage?
Yeah. We actually do have a office in London. And yes, of course, you're completely right. So of course, at the beginning, you need to build that kind of trust and credibility in a new market as well. So it's always important not to only have, for example, success stories coming from Germany and customer testimonials coming from Germany, but also, for example, from the UK, to build that kind of, level of trust and credibility that they know, okay, it also works in my home turf market.
Very good.
Really, for us, something that distinguishes us, that we are a solution that works across Europe. And this is for many of the larger organizations, they're just not in one country. And for them, it's a unique thing that they can use this across their organization. And it really tells me that how similar in the end we are, at least in Europe, and I believe the wider world, and how we do construction and both. Yeah, there's certain local things, but that it can be done. And I think that's something that drives me, that we can unite us. We don't have to do this locally, but that's something we can learn from the other countries. After all, they're not that different. That makes that makes a great vision.
And that's exactly what we want to see, because, best practice isn't geographically restricted. We need to see best practice and quality rising to the top. And before we wrap up, what can we expect from Alasco, over the next 12 to 24 months? Is there any new products or services on the horizon?
So I think what we're going to see is that we're seeing the sustainability part being so much more important for our customers, and us being able to deliver. I think that what we're going to really be proud of is that we have this as a joint solution. Today we're offering cost management and ESG, and we're working very much into integrating this. You have it in the same dashboard. You can translate vice versa, and you can understand what are your best options from a sustainability perspective and financial perspective. This really excites us to make this possible. Few people in the industry can do this yet, and I think it needs software because it has so much data that needs to be brought together.
See, again, another lesson in the power of collaboration and integration well, and allowing people to be experts in what they do. Thank you both so much for joining us today. It was great to learn about Alasco, and we hope to see you more prevalent in the Irish marketplace soon. That was Sebastian, Schuon and Sarah Geiger of Alasco. And that's it from us this week. You can get in touch with the show on social media at iPropertyRadio or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. My thanks, as always, to the Hear Me Roar production team and to Luke Delaney on sound for Dublin South FM. Until next time, thank you for listening.